line 7 tells us, each of you should give what you have decided. In your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Let us be cheerful givers. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for matron street that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Good job, ladies. And Becky tearing that piano up over there today too, isn't she? Love that. It says that Ben Franklin wanted our national bird to be a turkey. And that's sort of true, though it is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing. In a 1784 letter to his daughter, Benjamin Franklin famously criticized the bald eagle as a symbol for the United States. He called it a bird of bad moral character. He then praised the wild turkey as a more respectable choice, writing that it was a bird of courage and that it would not hesitate to attack a grenadier of British guards who should presume to invade his farmyard with a red coat on. The fathers of our nation fathers and mothers, were quite unique birds themselves. What do we know John Hancock for? Big handwriting, big signature, fancy signature too. It's almost like a seal. But he was more extensively known as a smuggler. He smuggled paper and glass and tea in secretly to avoid the excessive taxes of Britain. He actually had a bounty put on his head of 500 pounds, and he was said to have been irate that his bounty was so low. Jefferson kept bears as pets for a while. And I probably did not say a whole lot more about that. That very well explains itself, doesn't it? John Adams brought Satan to the White House. That was his dog, named Satan. As a child, it was surprising for me to discover that the forefathers wore wigs. But after looking at George Washington for a little bit, I thought, well, maybe so. Then as an adult, I was surprised once again to find out that all of those were wigs except for George Washington, and that was his natural hair. To date, Madison remains our smallest president at 5'4", 100 pounds. 100 pounds. And one of my favorite notables from the signing of the Declaration of Independence concerns Elbridge Gerry. There was a tense moment when the fathers were discussing the risk of being hung for treason as they signed the documents. And it said that Gerry quipped that due to his size, he'd kick around. He was a small guy. He would kick around for an hour or two after the rest of you are gone, was supposedly his statement. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams visited William Shakespeare's house together, and they chipped off a piece of the chair as a souvenir, of Shakespeare's chair as a souvenir. That sounds something like schoolboys would do, doesn't it? John Adams was 40. Thomas Jefferson, 33, at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. You know, there were some older. John Hancock was 39. Ben Franklin was 70. There were others who were shockingly young, even teenagers. James Monroe, that's a name we're all familiar with. He was 18 years old. Alexander Hamilton was 21. Marcus D. Lafayette was 18. Gilbert Stuart, 20. Aaron Burr, 20 years old. James Madison, 25 years old. Do you realize that Betsy Ross was only 24 years old when the Declaration of Independence was signed? Boy, didn't paintings make them all look a lot older back then. But what I want you to see is that they were quite unique birds, but as birds go, they were birds nonetheless. And just like we are, each and every one unique human beings, we're all very similar too. We're all just human beings as well, as were they. They were just normal people with all their quirks, all their shortcomings, all their successes, and they made some really, really good choices. You know, with history, we have a tendency to place them up on a high perch, don't we? But I want you to realize they were just normal people who risked everything for our freedom, for our freedom. If you were a bird, what kind of bird would you be? I wouldn't want to be a turkey. Lovebird. Songbird. We've got a few of those, don't we? Nightbird. Thunderbird. Mockingbird. You know, I think I would be a bird of prey with an A. As a church, we must be birds of a feather and flock together. And this morning we're looking at reputation and character and worth, as well as God's provision this Sunday before the 4th of July. To an extent, we'll look at some of these items in relation to our nation's founding, but sometimes sermons will follow a series, and you'll have several sermons in a row, that will pull in an emphasis. And sometimes, though, I'll pull an emphasis that just pops in every few weeks or so. And so it is today as we pull birds back in once again into the theme. We might call today's sermon the sparrow. The sparrow. A little bird wouldn't seem to have a whole lot to crow about, would it? Matthew chapter 10, verse 29, if you'd like to turn there with me. Matthew 10 at verse 29 says, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care." We see His eyes on the sparrow. Small bird, small reputation, small worth, as our passage points out. 2 sparrows sold for a penny. And God amazingly cares for even these little creatures. It is quite a unique little bird, the house sparrow. It has a reputation for being extremely adaptable. It's been found in Death Valley, 280 feet below sea level. It's been found in the Colorado Rockies, up there at 10,000 feet. It's the only bird ever known to live and breed in a Yorkshire, England coal mine, over 700 feet below ground, where miners would feed the little guy. The house sparrow was introduced from England to North America. It came to Brooklyn in the fall of 1851. And before that, before 1851, there were no sparrows in this land. Do you realize that? Do you know there were no flies in Australia before it was settled by the English? But only 200 years ago, there were no sparrows. Aren't they a neat little bird? They like to come by and say hi to you. Have you ever noticed that? If you're sitting out on your porch, they'll land right there and make a noise. It's like, hey, here I am. Here I am again. The most amazing thing about the sparrow is it likes people. If you find a large sparrow population, you'll find a lot of people. If you find a real small population of humans will be very sparse. It likes people. It likes people. It looks to humans as its friend and someone it depends upon. They love drive-ins. We can learn a little bit from the sparrow. We do well to follow God like little sparrows follow people. And God is a great benefactor, Small bird, much loved bird, that is something to crow about. Reputation is important. It's not as important as character.